Have you ever looked at your life and felt a deep, spiritual ache, wondering why the universe seems to have put your happiness on hold? Do you feel stuck in an endless waiting period for the right person, the one your soul knows is out there, while life just keeps passing you by? What if I told you that this agonizing delay is not a punishment, but a secret, sacred preparation? The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung knew that there are no accidents, only synchronicity. What you are experiencing as a painful pause is actually a deliberate cosmic test designed for the rarest of souls like yours. The universe doesn't deliver a profound connection to someone who is unprepared. It must first strengthen, test, and polish you in the fires of solitude and shadow. In this video, we will unlock the powerful secrets behind this process. You will finally understand the hidden reasons for your wait and discover exactly what the universe is demanding of you before it finally sends you the person you were destined to meet. Before we dive into these life-changing revelations, I need to ask you something important. A surprising number of you who find solace and answers in these teachings haven't yet joined our community. If this message is already resonating with you, take 1 second to hit that subscribe button and activate the bell. Don't let the algorithm hide the one video that could hold the key to your entire journey. And if you feel the power in these words, please press the like button to help this wisdom reach other souls who are feeling just as lost as you might be. And one more thing, let us know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. We want to see just how far the light of Carl Jung's teachings is traveling to help and heal hearts across the globe. Now prepare yourself. The answers you've been desperately searching for are about to be revealed. 1. The encounter with the shadow. The first step the universe requires of a rare soul is to face its own shadow. Carl Jung said that the shadow is everything we hide from ourselves. Fears, insecurities, repressed anger, hidden desires. The encounter with the shadow is not optional. It is inevitable. Destiny places us in front of situations and people that reflect what we deny seeing until we finally have the courage to look within. When you believe you are being wronged, humiliated, or rejected, you often don't realize that these events are invitations from the unconscious to meet your own vulnerabilities. Life creates scenarios where the shadow can no longer be ignored. It is at this moment that the soul feels torn, but it is also at this point that the process of individuation begins. Jung emphasized that ignoring the shadow is to live incompletely. Therefore, before receiving the right person, you will be led to face your unresolved traumas. The universe presents evidence that reveals repetitive patterns of pain, frustrating relationships, people who betray you or who do not. Recognize your value are direct reflections of what still needs to be recognized within you. This process is difficult, but it is strategic. Imagine someone who has never faced their own insecurity entering a deep relationship. They will inevitably project their weaknesses onto the other person, demand what they cannot give, and require constant validation. The unfaced shadow destroys bonds. Therefore, the universe does not take risks. It holds back the right encounter until the soul learns to deal with its darkness. Facing the shadow is not about eliminating defects, but about integrating them. Jung said, "The shadow is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a part of you that needs to be recognized." This means understanding that your fear, your anger, your vanity, your sadness, all of this is human. Rejecting these parts only makes them stronger. Acknowledging your shadow, on the other hand, is liberating. When you integrate the shadow, you realize that it is a source of energy. Fear can become courage. Anger can become determination. Sadness can become sensitivity. What once paralyzed you becomes strength. The universe wants you to reach that point before finding someone special, because only then will you have the emotional maturity to build a solid bond. It is also at this stage that many rebel against life, believing they are cursed to repeat pain. But the truth is that this cycle is pedagogical. With each fall, you are forced to look inward and recognize something that previously went unnoticed. What seemed like a punishment was actually a preparation. The encounter with the shadow is, therefore, a rite of passage. It selects who is willing to grow and who prefers to hide behind illusions. The universe does not give a rare person to someone who runs from themselves. True love requires two souls who have passed through the dark night. This phase also teaches humility. By seeing your weaknesses, you stop demanding perfection from others. You learn that everyone carries shadows, and that a true bond is not born from idealizations, but from mutual acceptance. This awareness is a powerful filter. It pushes away the superficial and attracts those with depth. Jung stated that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This phrase summarizes the purpose of the encounter with the shadow. It is not about waiting for the perfect, but about being able to see reality without fear, and yet choosing to love. Finally, the universe strives to prolong this process, because it knows that without it, any encounter becomes fragile. When you finally integrate your shadow, you realize that you no longer need someone to complete you, but to share with you. And it is at this point of psychic maturity that the right person enters, not as a savior, but as a partner on a whole journey. Thus, the encounter with the shadow is not just the first step. It is the foundation that supports all the others. It is the door through which every rare soul must pass before it can live a true love. Without this confrontation, the universe does not release the next chapter, and when it finally happens, you understand. Nothing was a delay. Everything was preparation. 2. The exercise of transformative solitude. For Jung, solitude was never a punishment, but a territory of transformation. Rare souls are led to periods of isolation precisely because the unconscious needs silence to reorganize itself. What seems like abandonment is actually a psychological retreat in which you learn to live with yourself without depending on external validation. At first, solitude weighs like a sentence. You feel the emptiness, the silence screams, and the mind insists on telling you that you are being left behind. But this discomfort is deliberate. The universe forces you to face yourself without distractions. When there is no one around, there are no masks to wear. It is at this point that the real inner work begins. Jung stated that many seek to fill solitude with noise, with empty people, or with superficial distractions. But this artificial filling only prolongs the void. Then the universe removes these false anchors, so that you understand that you do not need emotional crutches. You learn that you can be whole, even when you are alone. Transformative solitude reveals how much you can support yourself. It is in it that you discover the power of internal dialogue, the richness of introspection, and clarity about what truly matters. When you stop fighting against the silence and begin to embrace it, you realize that you are not alone. You are in the company of your own essence. This process is also a natural filter. Those who cannot bear to be alone tend to accept any company, even if it is toxic, just to numb the emptiness. Rare souls, however, are trained by the universe not to settle for less than they deserve. Solitude is proof that you prefer to wait for the right thing rather than sink into the wrong one. The transformation occurs when solitude ceases to be absence and becomes the presence of oneself. Jung said that a true encounter is only possible when two people who have already learned to be alone come together, not out of necessity, but by choice. This is the difference between dependence and authentic love. Solitude also teaches you to put down roots in yourself. You begin to cultivate hobbies, invest in your growth, and rediscover simple pleasures that do not depend on others. This emotional autonomy is the basis of a full life and prepares the ground for a healthy relationship, where there are no suffocating demands. It is at this stage that the soul understands that love should not come to fill holes, but to overflow. Solitude strengthens you precisely because you no longer wait for someone to come and save or complete your life. When the right person arrives, they will find someone complete, not a void seeking satisfaction. The universe knows that solitude transforms one's perspective. You begin to differentiate the presence that adds from the presence that only takes up space. You learn to value authentic connections and to reject superficialities. This clarity is one of the greatest rewards of the solitary exercise. It is also in isolation that you connect with deeper dimensions: spirituality, intuition, and purpose. Jung believed that in silence, the unconscious opens up and brings messages that would normally be drowned out by the noise of life. Listening to these internal voices is an essential part of the preparation. In the end, transformative solitude returns you to the world in a different way. You no longer fear losing anyone, because you know you will never lose yourself. And it is at this point of emotional autonomy that the universe sends the right person, because now you are ready to unite without canceling each other out. Therefore, the exercise of solitude is not an empty interval, but a necessary training. It shows that absence can be as powerful as presence. When you learn to flourish on your own, love ceases to be a lack and becomes a conscious choice. And this is exactly what makes a rare soul ready for the true encounter. 3. The test of repeating patterns. One of the most profound mechanisms that Jung highlighted is the repetition of patterns. The universe, through the unconscious, creates situations and relationships that always seem the same, as if you were trapped in an endless cycle. It is not a matter of bad luck or cruel destiny, but of a pedagogical process. Until you learn the lesson, life insists on repeating the same test. These patterns often manifest in relationships. You attract people who treat you similarly, who awaken the same pains, or who reinforce the same frustrations. It is as if the psyche projects outward what needs to be seen inside. The universe does not send someone different until you understand what lies behind these repetitions. For Jung, this dynamic is called the repetition compulsion, and it serves to bring repressed content into consciousness. What you do not resolve in one relationship resurfaces in another, like an echo from the unconscious. The goal is not to punish you, but to force you to face the same dilemmas until you can see the root of the problem. For example, if you have an unhealed wound of rejection, you will likely repeatedly attract people who reject you, not because you are condemned, but because the unconscious seeks to recreate the scenario, so that this time you handle it differently. Repetition is, therefore, an invitation to healing. The problem is that as long as there is no awareness, the tendency is to blame fate or other people. Rare souls suffer from this feeling that the same thing always happens because they have not yet realized that the real battlefield is not outside, but inside. When consciousness expands, the cycle begins to crumble. The universe allows these patterns to repeat because it knows that pain is one of the best teachers. Each accumulated frustration pressures you to seek deeper answers. And it is at this point that Jung's psychology proves to be essential. It teaches that the key is not to change the other person, but to transform yourself. Breaking the repetition requires the courage to look inward and recognize what you yourself are projecting. It is painful to admit that most situations repeat because the soul has not yet learned to hold another type of energy. But it is also liberating to understand that when you change on the inside, you change on the outside. These tests are actually natural selection. The universe will not allow you to reach the right person while you are trapped in old cycles. It requires awareness, maturity, and emotional responsibility. When you break the pattern, you make room for a new reality, for someone who does not repeat the same story, but who inaugurates a new chapter. Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This phrase summarizes the entire process. As long as you do not realize that the repetition is a creation of your own unconscious, you will continue to believe it is bad luck or fatality. The awakening begins when you see the common thread. Repetition also strengthens your perception. Each cycle brings clues, signs, and details that previously went unnoticed. You begin to see patterns of behavior, words, and attitudes that you previously accepted, without question. This clarity is what protects you in the future and prepares you for truer relationships. When you finally learn the lesson, the repetition ceases. The universe no longer needs to insist because you have integrated the experience. It is at this moment that destiny opens up to new possibilities. The right person only appears when you demonstrate through awareness that you will no longer get lost in the same mistakes. Therefore, the test of repeating patterns is one of the most difficult tests a rare soul faces, but also one of the most liberating. It shows that nothing changes on the outside if nothing changes on the inside. When you break the cycle, you stop being a victim of fate and become the creator of your own story. And it is only then that the universe allows the right person to enter the scene. 4. Separation from projections. One of the central points of Carl Jung's psychology is the concept of projection. Before you find the right person, the universe puts you through the exercise of detaching from the images you create in your mind. When you project, you do not see the other person as they are, but as you would like them to be. This illusion inevitably leads to frustration, because no one can sustain a role invented by someone else. Projections occur when unconscious parts of you are placed onto the other. You attribute to someone qualities that you would like to have, or you expect them to heal wounds that have not yet been treated. This idealization turns the relationship into a stage of impossible expectations. The universe then allows these illusions to be broken so that you learn to love what is real. Jung said that projective love is like a spell. We enchant the other with images that come from our own soul. However, when time passes and reality imposes itself, the spell is broken and disenchantment arises. This shock is painful, but it is also necessary. It is at that moment that you understand that you were loving a construction of your mind, not the person in front of you. For a rare soul, this learning is crucial. The universe delays the true encounter precisely so that the psyche learns to differentiate love from projection. As long as you insist on clinging to fantasies, you will continue to be deceived by the wrong people. The breakdown of projections is a process of emotional maturity that frees your gaze. This detachment requires courage. Recognizing that you have created an illusion hurts because it means admitting that you were trapped in a reflection, not in a reality. However, it is precisely at this point that the transformation occurs. You stop looking for the ideal and start valuing the authentic, even if it is imperfect. Jung saw in this process a path of individuation. By removing from the other the images you projected, you return to yourself what was hidden. If you projected strength, you need to find your own strength. If you projected affection, you need to nurture self-care. With each detachment, you gather pieces of your soul. This exercise also redefines what it means to love. To truly love is not to expect the other to fill your shortcomings, but to accept that they are human with flaws and virtues. The right person is not meant to be your ideal, but to share reality with. The detachment from projections makes room for a more solid love, free from illusions. The universe insists on this process because it knows that without it, any relationship collapses. Those who enter a bond expecting the other to be a fantasy are quickly disappointed. Only when you learn to see without illusions can you build a lasting relationship. Truth sustains, projection destroys. Often this learning comes through pain. You think you have found someone perfect, but you discover that this image was just a reflection of your own unconscious needs. Frustration, in this case, is a teacher. It forces you to let go of the illusion and mature emotionally. This detachment also brings a form of freedom. When you stop projecting, you stop expecting the other to be responsible for your happiness. You understand that everyone has their own path, and that the function of love is not to heal wounds, but to add strength. This creates more balanced and less dependent relationships. Jung said that he who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The detachment from projections is exactly this awakening. When you stop looking at the other as a mirror of your flaws, you begin to see your own essence. True love only flourishes in this state of consciousness. Therefore, the universe does not send the right person until you learn this lesson. First, it is necessary to remove the veils of illusion, to recognize yourself, and to accept others as they are. Only then will you be ready for a real bond where presence is worth more than the ideal. This is the true meaning of letting go of projections. 5. Purification through suffering. Carl Jung said that suffering is inevitable, but it is not useless. For rare souls, it is the alchemical fire that transforms impurities into wisdom. The universe allows you to go through intense pain, not to punish you, but to polish you. Every disappointment, every loss, and every fall works as an instrument of purification that cleanses illusions and strengthens the spirit. Suffering removes the superfluous. When you are broken by circumstances, you realize what truly matters. Superficial relationships, empty desires, and fragile vanities crumble in the face of pain. This process makes you select your connections better and learn to value the essential. For Jung, pain is an initiator, almost like a rite of passage. It opens doors to parts of the psyche that have remained hidden. Often it is only when life shatters us that we find our inner strength. This forced immersion into the unconscious shows us dimensions of ourselves that would not otherwise be revealed. Purification through suffering also dismantles arrogance. A soul that has never suffered tends to believe it is invincible or self-sufficient. But when pain arrives, fragility is exposed and humility emerges. This humility is fundamental for love, as it prevents you from seeing the other as property or an extension of your ego. This process also teaches us resilience. Every time you fall and get up, you prove to yourself that you are capable of taking more than you imagined. This confidence is not born from comfort, but from overcome pain.
The universe only delivers the right person to those who have already learned to recover without depending on saviors. Suffering also cleanses the soul of unrealistic expectations. With each frustration, you realize that there is no one in the world who can live up to your fantasies. This dose of reality, although harsh, is liberating. It prepares you to see the other as human, and not as an idealized projection. For Jung, pain had therapeutic value. It forces you to come into contact with wounds
that the conscious mind prefers to hide. It is at the moment when everything falls apart that the psyche finds an opening to rebuild itself. This reconstruction is the true purification, not to return to what you were before, but to be reborn on a higher level. The universe insists on this process because it knows that pain shapes character. Rare souls cannot be fragile in the face of storms. They need to have consistency, firmness, and clarity, qualities that only suffering awakens. Therefore, before the right person comes, you face trials that seem unbearable, but that forge your essence. This purification also creates discernment. Those who have suffered know how to recognize the signs of falsehood, manipulation, and superficiality. Pain educates the gaze. You learn to clearly identify who adds to your life and who just takes up space. This filter is indispensable to protect the true bond that the universe is preparing. Another point is that suffering expands compassion. When you go through pain, you understand the pain of others. This sensitivity allows you to create deeper connections based on empathy. Rare souls, purified by pain, do not love with arrogance but with understanding. Jung reminded us that without suffering, there is no consciousness. What seemed to be only a burden reveals itself as a path of enlightenment. Every tear, every sleepless night, every breakup, all of this makes room for a more conscious self, more prepared to love authentically. Therefore, purification through suffering is not an end, but a means. The universe knows that a rare soul must pass through fire before it can receive the gold, which is a true encounter. Pain does not destroy, it refines. And when the right person finally arrives, you understand that all the suffering was a preparation to recognize and value them. 6. The reconstruction of the self. After going through the shadow, solitude, and suffering, the rare soul enters one of the most decisive stages, the reconstruction of the self. For Jung, the self is the regulating center of the psyche, the totality that integrates the conscious and the unconscious. The universe only allows the true encounter when this reconstruction is already underway, because only a strengthened self is capable of maintaining a deep relationship without getting lost in it. At the beginning of this process, you feel as if you are picking up scattered pieces, each healed trauma, each abandoned illusion, and each integrated pain brings back parts of who you really are. It is like assembling a mosaic. Only when the fragments are brought together does the image of your true essence begin to appear. Jung called this path individuation. the process in which the individual stops living just to please external standards and starts living according to their own inner nature. The reconstruction of the self is not a return to what you were before the pains, but the birth of a more complete and conscious version of yourself. At this stage, you learn to set clear boundaries. A fragmented soul accepts anything so as not to lose the little it has, but a reconstructed soul is not afraid to say no. This internal strengthening creates a field of respect that pushes away what lacks substance and attracts truer connections. The reconstruction also involves rescuing talents, dreams, and desires that were buried by past pains. The self asks you to become whole again, and that includes reconnecting with passions that may have been abandoned. This return to authenticity makes you shine in a natural way, without striving to please. In this process, self-esteem no longer depends on external validation. You begin to see yourself with clarity, recognizing both your strengths and your vulnerabilities. The universe requires this solidity before delivering the right person, because without it, you would get lost, trying to be what you are not, in order to please. The reconstructed self also offers a new way of loving. You do not approach another person to fill voids, but to share your totality. This changes the entire dynamic. Love is no longer a need and becomes a choice. The true encounter is only possible when two whole souls decide to walk together. Jung said that true fulfillment lies in being who you were born to be, and not in molding yourself to what others expect. The universe then delays the encounter until you have the courage to assume your individuality. Only when you stand in your own essence can you support someone by your side without losing yourself. This process also heals emotional dependencies. The reconstructed self no longer begs for attention, accepts crumbs, or settles for little. It knows its own value, and therefore does not negotiate its dignity. This state of consciousness creates fertile ground for a bond of reciprocity and respect. The reconstruction also deepens spirituality. The self is not only psychological but also spiritual in the sense of connection to something larger. Rare souls discover at this point that their journey is not just about finding someone, but about finding themselves within the whole. This awakening gives meaning to the waiting. The universe insists on this process because it knows that without it, you would repeat the same old mistakes. It is the reconstruction that ensures that this time it will be different. The soul that has passed through this inner fire is no longer fragile or naive. It is conscious, strong, and ready to love authentically. Therefore, the reconstruction of the self is the mark of a turning point. After it, what comes does not find a broken heart, but a complete human being, willing to share and not to be nullified. It is at this point that the universe finally opens the door to meet the right person, not because you need them, but because you choose to have them by your side. 7. The call of purpose. Carl Jung said that life without purpose becomes unbearable. For rare souls, the universe does not allow the true encounter until the meaning of existence is clear. Before receiving the right person, you are led to an intense search for meaning. It is as if life wants to make sure that love is not used as an escape, but as a complement to a greater mission. This call begins in silence, often through a feeling of emptiness. You may have relationships, material achievements, but still feel that something essential is missing. This discomfort is the unconscious asking for direction, pushing you towards something that transcends the simple act of existing. Jung believed that purpose is not invented, but discovered. It already exists within you like a seed. Suffering, solitude, and repeated patterns serve to clear the ground until you are ready to recognize what has always been there. Your calling, your vocation, what gives meaning to everything. When the soul finds this axis, everything reorganizes. You stop living just to survive and start living to receive direction. Purpose makes every action more meaningful, every choice more conscious. The universe requires this alignment because only someone who has already found their inner path can walk alongside another soul without getting lost. The call of purpose also prevents you from seeking in love what only inner work can give. Many believe that the right person will fill the void of meaninglessness. But the universe does not allow this shortcut. It wants you to first discover your own reason for existing so that you do not place a weight on the other person that is impossible for them to carry. In this process, you are led to review your passions, talents, and values. What makes your heart race? What moves you even without applause? Purpose is always linked to something that connects your essence with the world. The universe forces you to answer these questions because only then will you be clear about the kind of love you can truly sustain. Rare souls are called to serve something greater than themselves. This does not mean they need to be famous or great, but that their life must be consistent with what they believe. When this alignment occurs, you become magnetic. The right person doesn't come to save you, but because they are attracted to the energy of those who already live with meaning. This call also redefines priorities. What once seemed urgent loses importance in the face of what is essential. You start saying no to distractions and yes to what strengthens your path. This clarity creates space for deeper relationships because there is no longer room for the trivial. Jung reminded us that the human psyche needs a telos, an end, a direction. Without this, the unconscious fragments. The universe knows this, so it does not send the right person before seeing you integrated into your own axis. It is the strength of purpose that prevents love from becoming dependence. Purpose also provides stability. Those who are clear about their mission do not get lost in emotional storms. On the contrary, they use relationships as an additional force to move forward. That is why the universe is so protective of this phase. It knows that a true encounter only flourishes when each person already carries a compass within themselves. This journey also teaches you that purpose is not just about work or achievements, but about the way you live each day. The love that will come will not be your mission, but you will walk alongside it. This is what differentiates a mature relationship from a needy one. Therefore, the call to purpose is the final piece before the meeting. It ensures that you will not enter a love to get lost, but to expand. When you finally find your direction, the universe sends someone who does not divert your path, but strengthens it. It is in this union that true love between rare souls is born. 8. The sign from the unconscious. Jung believed deeply in synchronicity, meaningful events that happen without a causal explanation, but have a profound meaning. The universe, before delivering the right person, uses the unconscious as a messenger. Dreams, signs, chance encounters, and coincidences begin to align in a mysterious way, as if life were organizing everything behind the scenes. For rare souls, nothing is a coincidence. It is destiny in motion. This signal does not arrive when you are still immersed in illusions or trapped in repetitive patterns. It appears when you have already crossed the shadow, endured solitude, learned from suffering, reconstructed the self, and aligned with your purpose. The unconscious then begins to open up to the new, and the universe responds with clues. These signs can manifest as unexpected encounters, words spoken at the right moment, vivid dreams, or even internal sensations of already knowing someone. For Jung, this is not magic, but synchrony between the internal state and the movement of the external world. When the psyche is ready, the external world reflects this readiness. Synchronicity is proof that the universe's timing is different from ours. You may believe you are late, but life only delivers what is aligned with your consciousness. Meaningful coincidences show that nothing happens sooner or later, but at exactly the necessary moment. For a rare soul, recognizing these signs is crucial. They serve as confirmation that the path taken was worth it. Every difficulty, every period of solitude, every pain, it was all preparation. Meeting the right person does not come wrapped in uncertainty, but in a deep sense of recognition. This recognition is not just emotional, but psychic. The unconscious responds as if an old memory were being reactivated. Jung called this archetypal resonance. When something awakens in you, an echo so deep that it seems to transcend logic. This is the sign that this is not just any meeting, but a rare one. The universe uses the unconscious as a filter. It ensures that you do not confuse momentary passion with true destiny. Synchronicities are the compass that points to what is real, and so the veil is lifted. You now understand the profound and sacred truth. The universe has never delayed anything for you. It has been preparing you. Every shadow you faced, every moment of solitude you endured, and every tear of suffering was a necessary brick in the foundation of a love so rare, it required a master architect. When you learn to read the signs, you stop living at the mercy of doubt and begin to flow with the powerful current of your own destiny. This alignment is the ultimate confirmation that your true encounter is not a mere accident, but a cosmic inevitability. Your trust in this process is the final key that unlocks everything. You are no longer just waiting, you are becoming. Your journey of awakening doesn't end here. In fact, it is just beginning. To anchor this powerful new consciousness within you, I want you to do something right now. In the comments below, write this one powerful declaration. I am ready. Let this be your signal to the universe, a testament to the fact that you have completed the internal work and are now prepared to receive what is rightfully yours. And before you go, if this message has resonated deep within your soul, I invite you to officially join this community of rare souls. A surprising number of you who watch these videos have not yet subscribed. Hit that subscribe button now and activate the bell, because your next great breakthrough could be just one video away. Please also give this video a like to help this wisdom find others who are still lost in the waiting. Go forward now, not in hope, but in certainty. The path for a rare soul may be longer, but that is because it is truer. You are not just finding someone. You have finally become the someone capable of sustaining a love that will last for eternity.